The Magna Carta of 1215 was a landmark document that laid the foundations for modern democracy and legal rights. Signed by King John of England, it was initially a response to his heavy taxation and arbitrary rule forced upon him by a group of rebel barons. The Magna Carta aimed to limit the powers of the king and establish a system of checks and balances. It introduced principles such as the rule of law and the idea that no one, not even the king, is above the law. At the core of the Magna Carta is the concept of jurisdiction, the legal authority to govern or legislate. Upon signing the Magna Carta, King John conceded some of his powers to the nobility and, by extension, the people. However, his agreement to recognize the power of the Pope over his rule had long-lasting implications, intertwining religious authority with political jurisdiction. When King John relinquished part of his sovereignty, he effectively acknowledged the Pope's influence over England, positioning the British monarch as a vessel of Roman authority. This relationship would carry through to other territories explored and claimed under the auspices of Catholic monarchies. The profits from these lands often funneled back to the church, perpetuating a cycle where the common citizen's wealth was indirectly siphoned away to support higher ecclesiastical purposes. The ideological ripples of these medieval power dynamics can be traced to the era of colonization and the eventual founding of the United States. Imposition of colonial rule. The early British colonies were heavily influenced by the monarchy's relationship with the church. Land grants and legal jurisdiction were often granted based on religious affiliation, which marginalized non-Catholic settlers and indigenous populations. The navigation of colonial law reflected these hierarchies, embedding biases that disadvantaged various groups. The legal frameworks and individual rights. The Magna Carta's promise of justice and due process began to evolve into the Bill of Rights, yet it initially did not extend to all citizens. Wealthy landowners benefited more significantly from these legal protections, while poorer citizens found little recourse against unjust laws influenced by ecclesiastical authority. Continuing influence of religion on governance. The enduring association between governance and the church created a precedent where legal systems could often reflect religious doctrine rather than purely secular law. This was detrimental in a country founded on principles of religious freedom. For instance, debates over moral and ethical laws derived from religious tenets have historically shaped legislation in ways that don't always align with individual liberties. The strategic use of jurisdiction, as seen in the dynamic of King John and his relationship with the Pope, served to bolster the powers of the monarchy while diminishing the individual's rights. Here are a few impacts. Consolidation of power. The monarch's role as a representative of the church simultaneously enabled the consolidation of power in the crown and limited the agency of citizens. It established a governmental structure where dissent against the monarchy could also be construed as dissent against the church, stifling freedom of speech and political dissent. Legal precedents. Jurisdiction also determines which laws apply to whom, influencing the rights of various social classes. For citizens in the colonies, the application of laws often reflected the interests of the monarchy and the church, sidelining local governance and self-determination. In revisiting the historical nuances of the Magna Carta, we uncover layers of complexity regarding sovereignty, jurisdiction, and individual rights that resonate through time, from medieval England to contemporary America. The negative ramifications for citizens can be seen in the intertwining of political and ecclesiastical power that began with figures like King John. The laws that govern individuals are often framed within the context of higher, sometimes inaccessible authorities. Understanding these legacies invites a richer interpretation of ongoing struggles for equitable governance and individual rights in modern society.
Up and let's build King Oz.